Hi, I wanted to respond to a few questions that had come through about the project brief for this module. So I'm just going to run through the project brief and talk about the common questions that have come up. I'm going to do that fairly methodically, so bear with me. Okay, section A, I think most people get the one-page CV. Please pay attention to the fact that we're asking it to be one page and we're asking it to be a minimum font size of 11 points. We are checking these things and you are in danger of being downgraded if you don't meet the requirements of the brief. We are very specific about that, so please don't overstretch that. Your CV needs to contain a link to a working LinkedIn profile. It doesn't have to be a profile that you've spent days developing, but it does need to be a working LinkedIn profile, something that you have populated with a basic amount of information. And that LinkedIn profile needs to highlight your membership of at least 3 LinkedIn groups that are relevant for the career that you're choosing for this assignment. Now, remember, for this assignment, it makes sense to just focus on one career pathway. I don't mean that will represent your life and who you really are, but for the purpose of the assignment, you need to keep the target area really small just to keep the project manageable. Okay, so I am just going to, if I'm allowed, go over to my LinkedIn profile. And here you can see I've come through to this group, but I'll show you how I got there. On the search bar of LinkedIn, you can type for something relevant for your career pathway. And I'm choosing groups from the drop-down menu here. I've put visual art, which is relevant for me, and I've also put in London because sometimes you get way too many results without specifying something. It depends really what search terms you're using. So obviously I've chosen fairly specific search terms and it's given me 3 results. If I was to put in, let's say, fashion photography, footography, that's a new thing altogether. I don't know whether the world's ready. Fashion photography London. Let's have a look. There's not very much, actually. Probably if I was to put in fashion photography more generally, I've got 152 results. But I'm going to keep with the nice narrow window there, and I'm just going to click on these guys. Now, this is what I do to join, but what I would suggest you do, you're not assessing you for this in the project brief, what I'd suggest you do before joining is to check out some basic things about the group. If you click on this settings bar here, you can look at the group statistics page, and that brings you through to say, okay, nobody commented on anything last week. They're located in London. Their function is in arts and design. In terms of the demographic, you can see here, actually, most people in this group are entry level, so they're going to be peers, not necessarily people that will give you work, but then you've got a good amount of senior people and owners and directors in here, so it's something to think about whether this group is relevant for you. You can see how it's grown and how active it is, and I can see there was one discussion last week, no jobs, no promotions. So for me, this isn't a great group. It might just be a profile thing to add to my LinkedIn profile. But we are just asking you for 3 groups, and I'm not suggesting that they need to be, you don't have to do massive amount of research on them now. The other thing I'm going to say at this point, please pay attention to the highlighted text. Don't hyperlink your LinkedIn URL to a text or an image. So by that I mean, if you're using Word, you can include an image in your CV, you can include a piece of text that maybe says my LinkedIn profile. And then you can kind of use that image or text and hyperlink it to the full URL for your LinkedIn profile, so that you're not putting a messy URL on your CV. Now, that's great, generally speaking, if you know what you're doing. For this assignment, it is a massive risk. So I would suggest that you include the full URL on your CV. Please don't truncate, please don't use bit.ly, please don't do anything particularly fancy. What we would really like is if we can't get the URL working via a click on your CV, that we can copy and paste it. So please do provide the full URL. Hope that makes sense. Okay, mock-up of your About Me page or profile. This, guys, needs to convey your personal brand, and you are aiming it at potential clients. So it's not just, what your life story is or what your favourite dinner is. It really has to be quite targeted. It's only 150 words. And your text really needs to convey who you are, what you do, and what makes you different from other people, why others should be interested in what you do. Some of you have been asked by your subject tutors to mock this up in InDesign or other software packages. A lot of you haven't been directed at all. Where you haven't been directed, just include some text. And that would probably be, sorry, there's a bit of latency on my machine. That would probably be my summary page, yeah, for LinkedIn. So that could be your About Me page. Now, your About Me page isn't something that would be separate from your website or from LinkedIn. It's just that we wanted to give it particular attention. So please use the About Me section to craft something that you could potentially use everywhere about you. Okay. Good. Integration of your showreel or portfolio within your web presence. So some people have said, yeah, you definitely need to be on Behance. Other people have left it really loose. And I'm talking about your subject tutors. It really depends on what you do and what you want to do within the industry that you're going into. So this could mean that you just, you put up a link on your LinkedIn profile or on your website to the showreel. It could mean that you embed your showreel within your LinkedIn site or within your website, whatever your web presence is. Yeah, and that could mean different things depending on who you are, what you do, and how developed you've gotten things. You just need to have your web presence integrated in some way, whether it's just a URL or whether it's embedded. You need to have your content integrated within your web presence. So, for example, if you're using Vimeo for your showreel, you can embed that. Yeah, you can get the embed code out of Vimeo. You can put it onto LinkedIn. You can put it onto Behance, the dots, wherever else you want to put it. And you can still use Vimeo as one of your 3 external portfolio sites. So that's the next part of the project brief. We're asking you to post your profile, essentially post some sort of content on 3 external sites. So that could be Vimeo, it could be YouTube, it could be for those of you that don't necessarily produce a lot of content, it could be blog entries, it could be responses to forum questions that you've answered, it could be where you've catalogued or documented your work or your process or the technologies you're working about. It's some kind of content that represents what you do. And for some of you, that's really straightforward because you produce content whilst you're here. And for others, you're going to have to think a bit more inventively about this. But people want content. Everything online is about content. So you can put the URLs in your CV, right? We're talking here about posting onto external sites. You can put the URLs of those sites on your CV if that's how you would send out your CV, if that's what makes sense to you, or you can put it in the report. Yeah. And the content, as I've said, could be your showreel, your portfolio, posts from your blog, forum responses to questions that you've answered. Just provide screenshots. If the URL, if you're providing a link to a forum where you've answered a question and there's a gazillion threads, we might not be able to find it. So in that case, take a screenshot just for safety. Give us more information rather than less. And if you've got any questions about that, come and see me in class. Okay, the SEO plan we're going to cover next week. So that will be done. I'm going to give you a lot of information next week. But if you look at what we're asking for in the SEO plan, it's really not very much. We're asking you to think about 10 elements and how much those elements would require in financial terms and time. Okay, so actually it's not that involved. Section B, you've got to reflect on components A1 to A5. So reflection means you talk about what the process was like for you, what you found challenging, what you found interesting, what surprised you, what you would do differently next time, those kinds of things. That's reflective thinking. It's not about the outcome, it's about how you've taken a step back and what you've learnt from the outcome. Okay, critique of two, excuse me, competitor About Me pages. I've had emails from people saying, do I just choose random people? No, you're Googling very specific people. So I'm just going to get my machine to play ball. So what I would do here, I would go Visual Artist London SE10. Yeah, that's for me. That's my competitor. And that's what I would potentially consider to be somebody that would go for the same job that I would go for. So this is the first site that I can see on here where it's a real person rather than kind of LinkedIn. I might check out her LinkedIn in a moment, but I'm just going to cross-reference. And okay, where's her About Me, you might ask? Could be that she's calling it profile, because it's obviously not on her homepage, which is where I'm at now. It's actually a really short and concise website. And here's her About Me or profile, where she's written about what she does, who she is and what sets her apart. Now, I could start talking about the fact that it's very long. That's not a great thing, in my opinion. She's asking the viewer to do a lot of work. On the other hand, she has, she's differentiated different paragraphs, and she's used bold and she's used italics. So there are some positives in there. And it also really depends on who she wants to target. But I would critique that, and I might also critique somebody that I thought had done a really good job. So that gives me a range of people that I'm going to give feedback on. So you take somebody that's got a really great competitor About Me page and somebody that's got, kind of a lame About Me page, and you'll have a good range of things. Just out of interest now, let's see what her LinkedIn profile, I'm assuming. Is that the same person? No, she lives on my... Okay, let's see if we've got Veronica Thornton. Let's see what she's saying on her financial controller. No. Oh, LinkedIn, your search results stink. Okay, I can't be sure that any of these people are relevant, but you get the drift. It's really just about finding very specific people depending on the job role that you're going for. And I don't mean people that are, thinking about the job that you want to do in a year or two. I mean now, people that actually would compete for work with you now in this moment. Okay. The skills audit, with a plan of action for weaknesses in the shortfall. The proficiency level, which we've asked for, you could state this as a percentage. So you could say I'm at like 30% and I need to be at 75, or you could give a score out of 10. Whatever you think is really appropriate for the job that you're pursuing. Obviously, a percentage gives more detail, so you're making more judgment on that, and that can be a good thing. But if you're going to be kind of, not putting effort in this area, and you don't want to think about percentages in that level of detail, then it's, it might not look very good. So take that into consideration also. But please do fill in proficiency level, because if you look at job descriptions, and that's what we suggested you do, if you remember for this. Okay, so I'm going to take freelance documentary editor job. Now let's just see. I'm just going to go with Indeed, because that's one that we all where? I don't think so. Oh, I think I might have come on to Indeed.com instead of Indeed.co.uk. That's annoying. But, it's all about what I searched for. There we go. You'll see how important all this stuff is when we do the SEO lecture. Okay, video content editor. Let's just say that's exactly what I want. So then, excuse me, skills, ability to edit video, ability to use. Okay, they actually haven't really specified very much here. So that might not be a great example, but has this popped up? Yeah. Let's just choose another one. I'm not sure this is a great one either. No, because it's not particularly... Oh, look, full job description. I could get into this, and let's see. Let's see whether the Beeb's doing it. I don't think this is a very technical role, I'm afraid. Sorry, I've led you down another duff path here. Well, yeah, as you can see, it does take a little bit of time for you to get something that will be junior editor. Okay, let's just try. I think it's because, okay, junior editor. I didn't check what kind of editing. It's probably bloody magazines, isn't it? Junior assistant VFX editor. Okay. Proficiency using Adobe Premiere. Okay, again, I don't know whether Indeed is the right place to go, but you get a kind of idea from building up this how proficient people would need to be. You can kind of read between the lines on some of this stuff. They, of course, everyone's going to ask you to be proficient, but there are levels of proficiency, and frankly, I think some of your software skills will be a lot better than more senior people's, particularly, if they're asking you to work across platforms. Some people tend to specialise with age. Anyway, please include a proficiency level, important. And then finally, identify another career pathway within your industry. So it could be that whilst doing your skills audit, you realise you're more suited to something else, or it could be that you are currently doing more than one thing, so you could put the secondary thing in there. Do provide a job title, so if you're doing video editing as your main kind of choice, then you could be doing sound editing, so put junior sound editor in there, and a couple of sentences on why. Don't just put junior sound editor full stop and leave it at that. Please explain why you think that's a suitable career option for you, but it doesn't require that much, just a couple of sentences about why, but make sure those sentences count, because that's what we have to mark you on. So I hope that's cleared up some of the common questions. Obviously I'll be around next week, and then we've got your formatives, and please, your formatives are really informal. We say you're presenting your work, but it's not a presentation as such. You're just giving the assessors everything that you've done in order for them to get you some feedback on all of that, so you can refine it in time for the submission. Hope that answers lots of your questions. See you soon, guys.
You Skyping or recording?
I'm recording.
It's really tricky, isn't it? I had a